Hey everyone, we're here with Mike Hayden, a previous CA bar style applicant and a current practicing attorney in California. Hi Mike, how's it going?
Hi, Shauna. It's going well as always.
All right, so tell me, I was thinking you never really told me why you went to law school. What was the whole story behind that?
Mid 30s crisis. I guess the economy changed. The recession happened. I left the military. I was an army officer, and they really
You were in the
pump you up.
military.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I didn't
But as an
Yeah, I think
army
I knew
officer,
that. Okay, right.
some of you know that they really pump you up and tell you you're going to be this great leader and you're going to be a leader in the corporate world and all this stuff. But
Mhm.
unless you got the right connections, it's not really true. So I took a bachelor degree in political science at the turn of the millennium, and I said, okay, I need to add to this. And I always wanted to go to law school. I just didn't have the ability because I was too busy,
Mhm.
or full time work in the military. And then when I got out, I got the travel bug, and then finally when I settled in California, I said, okay, I'm 34, 35. I got to do this now. It's now or never.
34, 35 to go to law school. That's like not the average start time, but good for you and thank you for your service. So, you went to law school. Where'd you go to law school?
I went actually to an unaccredited program,
Mhm.
California School of Law, based in Santa Barbara, which is
Mhm.
distance learning,
Was that
uh,
online or was that in
online.
person?
I'm sure.
Online.
I'm sure. Yeah,
And
yeah.
how long did the degree take you about?
It took 4 years, 4 months.
4 years, 4 months. So, did you work during that time?
Yes, I did.
And what did you do? Were you working like in a law firm or were you doing other kind of work?
Nope, just labor work. I was the gym guy, worked at the gym, 24-hour fitness. I was a driver. I did a lot of jobs, you name it.
You were the gym guy. I love it. Okay. So, what was your life like during law school? Because I know for me, it was dating and going to school. There were times I loved going to school, but there were times I was like, I just want to kind of be young and free. Were you just working and going to school, or was there more
Well,
to
well,
it?
let me
Like,
say
what
this.
was going on in your life?
Let me say this. I was happy to go at 35 because I understood the business world a little bit better. I understood
Mm,
contracts a little bit better. I understood how things work a little bit better.
hmm
Um, Unless you're ready to take that on at 22 years old, it's kind of an eye opener. It's a lot.
Yeah.
And I actually was overwhelmed, and that leads me. That's the segue into us. How I met you is I knew I needed a tutor after my first. It was my first year. I
hmm
had just finished 2 trimesters. There was one
hmm
trimester left, and I knew I was going to have to take the baby bar.
Okay.
And
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 tell our
that's
viewers what the baby bar is.
it's a
That
mini bar. It's a
mhm,
1 day bar exam where you
mhm.
have 4 essays and 4 hours to do them, and then you have an hour and a half lunch, and then you have 3 hours to complete 100 MBEs.
Right. So, they
Uh,
are changing the format of that. I don't know if you've heard, but the state bar is going to be changing it to 100 questions, MBE questions only in the near future. So you took the full day old school baby bar, I would call it. It's not old school yet, but it's going to be soon. And
Wait,
did
they're
you
removing the essays?
they're removing the essays, yeah. And
How dare they?
how dare they? I agree. I mean, I like the format, the current format, but we have to roll with, I guess, whatever way they go. I mean, it always seems like they're changing up something and we can't keep up. But we have to pivot, right?
Hmm.
Because, in my realm, in my world, I have to take care of the applicants and make sure their stress is as low as possible. You know all about that. So that leads me into, talk about your need to find a tutor because I think a lot of law students kind of feel lost sometimes, right? We're in California. We have over, I think, 45 law schools in this state. And I would say at least, I don't know, 25, 30% have to take the applicants, excuse me, after their first year of law school, law students have to take the baby bar. So you found the need to search for something like a tutorial. Why? Do you remember?
I was having a hard time with the actual practice test for the baby bar that my school makes us take. We have to
Mhm.
pass on a Saturday. We had to have passed a mock baby bar in order to
Mm.
take the baby bar. But now, the pandemic taught us that distance learning is possible, and there's about four accredited, California accredited distance learning schools. So they've taken land strides, but
Mhm.
some unaccredited students will still have to take the baby bar. It's just
Mm.
there's the
Right.
territory.
Right. Okay. And what was your baby bar journey like? I mean, I remember working with you and you had some bumps go on, right, during that time of your preparation. Or was that more during your bar exam prep? Because we worked together for baby bar and then, of course, the general bar, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But what was your baby bar journey like? You only took it once, right?
Yep.
Okay. Talk to me.
Well, that was when we met was January 2014.
You remember the
Um,
exact year.
yeah, I'm like Rain Man
Impressive.
with my days and times. But
Mhm. I'm not.
anyway, you were actually a referral from our dean of students
Mm,
who got a lot of positive reviews from you from local law students.
mm.
And I said, okay, I liked Shauna, your Shauna. I liked
That's me.
uh, your your approaches, your program.
Thank you.
I did get Adaptive Bar. They do have Adaptive Bar for the baby bar,
Mhm.
and you taught me how to get over my major hurdle, which was contracts,
Yes, I
because
remember that.
crim and torts are pretty straightforward. I had a good understanding of both, but you took me over that hurdle with contracts and UCC and everything.
Yeah.
That's what was killing me. The contracts essay,
Yep.
and I guess I just got lucky. I had two torts essays instead of two contracts essays on the baby bar.
Yeah, I think a
Um,
lot of applicants pray for that, and contracts is one of those Achilles heels for a lot of applicants, and not only with the baby bar, but even with the general bar, it's one of the least favored subjects for sure. I think, from my perspective, law schools need to do a better job teaching contracts because, especially, it's covered in the first year. And at that time, a lot of applicants have never been privy to what a contract is. It's not something that is in layman's terms, right? A lot of the terms are very legal. And so you can come out kind of feeling like it's a foreign language and you don't understand it. So, good job that you worked through that. I do remember you kind of struggling with that, but you got it, right? You keep working at it. Um,
my torts and my crim carried me, and the funny thing with the baby bar is when you pass, you do get to see your results.
mm, okay. So, what were your results? Do you remember?
Yes, you need I believe it's a 560 out of 800 to pass,
Hmm.
and I think I got 569 or something like that. Like I just edged by, but it's a pass fail exam and it's got a
Hmm.
20% pass rate. So they do a lot of weeding out. It's not an
Right.
easy shortcut as, people like Kardashian took it three times that can tell you something. She's got unlimited resources.
Yeah. She had,
She's a billionaire. Couldn't help her pass.
sure, she had a lot of help there. So, you take the baby bar, you pass. And then what's the rest of your law school like? Is it pretty smooth sailing until we kind of
No,
know?
no,
Okay. On a
it picked
personal
up. I
level
mean,
or?
once we got into civil procedure and property and all the other first year subjects that were taught to us, mostly during our second and third years, they were spread out. It just depended when the students, because we had 4 years, it's a 4 year program, so it just
Mhm.
depended on the students when they had what. So they would mix it up a lot. Like I think I had property my third year, I
Mhm.
had evidence my second year, I had
Big
con
subject.
law. Yeah, just
Yeah.
mixed. And I just took it a day at a time. I really put the work in. I really studied. I really read all my cases, and you were the one that taught me don't focus so much on the facts of the cases. Just what's the rule that came out of it,
Mhm.
because they add
I'm
up
gonna have a
over
lot of
time.
law professors getting mad at me for that, but yes. The facts of the case irrelevant, but you're right. I mean, get to the nuts and the bolts, the holding of the case. Um,
They want you to know Hawkins versus McGee and all these other landmark cases that are
Look
wonderful,
at
you know, that
you busting out case names. Okay.
yeah, Paul's
And
draft and all that stuff. So,
but
you
you got
know,
through law school, it took you so a total of 4 years. That's a big commitment, and you're working out, you're keeping shape. I remember when I met you, you were like still buff guy, keeping up your health, and then you go to the law, graduate law school, and then comes the bar exam. And I want to spend, a good amount of time because we worked for years together with this exam, and we have to kind of give a Cliff Notes version to something that was an incredible journey of perseverance for you, from my standing and my perspective. And I think a lot of people, before we get into your story on this, don't realize that applicants that have to repeat the exam many times. It's not that you're not as smart, right, as others taking it. This is a game that you're playing with arguably the hardest exam in the country. And there's a lot of individual tones, right, that go through taking an exam of this caliber. So if you would be, so kind as to walk me through your personal, feedback on your journey with the exam. So talk to me about kind of, refresh
I got
my
you.
recollection of what your journey was like.
Now I'm back in evidence when you said that. But
That's what made me almost quit for sure. That memorization of
I
evidence.
just asked to refresh the witness's recollection in court the other day. So anyway,
Look at you.
police
Okay.
police witnesses. Yeah. Anyway, I'll tell you. We'll get into that later.
Hmm.
I took the bar 9 consecutive times, and that had nothing to do with Shauna or her program. She's a wonderful tutor. This had to do with me. And the one consistency that Shauna told me is, Michael, she's seen it. She said, you are not 100% focused on this. You are focused on other things. You have to be devoted to nothing but the bar. Some people have to work 40 hours a week, but their evenings and weekends have to be dedicated to the bar. What happened to me is my mother, she's been gone 6 years now, so I can talk about this
6 years.
comfortably.
Wow.
6 years. As of March 3rd, it'll be 6 years. My mother was literally dying from cancer, bone, renal, you name it. She was going into a last ditch effort surgery on her kidney to stop bleeding
So
back
sorry.
in, yeah. But this was
I
after my
remember.
first bar failure. I failed the bar the first time, and everybody's like, it's okay, get back on the horse. You didn't do that bad. We're doing this again, Shauna said. But the whole time I have a dying mother. And my mother was like my best friend. It's always like that with opposite gender parents, children.
Yeah.
Um, and my mother knows of things my dad doesn't even know about, like shenanigans and such when I was younger. And so anyway, uh, my mother, God rest her soul, this is the type of person she was. She was determined to have me pass that bar.
I remember.
She lied to me and had her aide or nurse short texting me, pretending it was her, so I wouldn't come running home in February.
Wow.
And when
I
I
have
came home
chills.
after I took the bar in February,
Mm.
I come home, my aunt tells me, my uncle tells me, Michael, you got to get home. You got to get home right away. Your mom's not got
This
many
is
days
after the
left.
first time taking it.
Second time,
Second time.
second bar.
Okay.
But the first time taking it, she's not doing well. I
Right.
have that on my
So you have
plate.
a
And
mental toll. You have a
yeah,
mental
my
block, I'm
first bar.
sure. Mhm.
Right. Second bar. So I get home. My mom holds on for me, passes away 3 days later after I get home. She didn't want me to see her suffer. She didn't want me to see her like that. But back to
Yeah,
the bar, the whole time it's going on in my mind.
of course.
Like, what's wrong? Mom's short texting me. She's not herself lately. What's happening? And I mean, there's nothing to forgive. I mean, that's who she was. She wanted me to pass that bar. And that's what got in my head. Like, Michael, you got to pass this. You got to pass this. And then
She was always there
right
in
after
your
my
head.
mom passed away, I'm getting ready for my third bar, and I have my paternal aunt who's broken her foot, who's a cancer survivor herself. Her non-Hodgkin's lymphoma is coming back,
Oh,
and
no.
I have to take care of her.
Mhm.
And I'm an only son. I'm an only nephew. I have to keep the family going. I have to keep my father going. I have to, family finances, everything. So
Mhm.
I got hit with all this important stuff in 2018. It was a whirlwind. My life changed. And then my aunt's dying, losing her memory. She's in full-time memory care, quarter mile down the street, nice facility, but
Mhm.
visiting her while I'm trying to study for the bar, staying home, and she passes away January 2019, and that's right before I'm going to take my third bar,
The third bar.
fourth bar. I'm sorry, number four.
So,
So
even when you started your journey of bar prep, you knew quite, in soon into it that your mom was sick. And I can
yep,
tell you from my own personal experience of having also a mother that passed away from cancer, um, it's there. Like no matter how much, you have to go on, right? You're pushing through, and it's for applicants or people that are going to watch this, that have to take the bar soon or are taking the bar, now or have taken the
but you were
exam.
correct. You were correct in saying that, Michael,
The
hold
mental,
off. Don't keep doing this. Hold off until you are ready to devote your time.
yeah,
And then to make a long story short and to speed things up, um, 2020, my maternal aunt passes away. So
that's too
my
much.
whole
That's
yeah, my
too
whole
much
family
grief.
tree, and we were a very close family. We were a very tight family. I love my mom and I love both my aunts, but all of a sudden everybody's gone. It's just my dad and my uncle and me
Wow.
and a bunch of cousins. But
Right.
well, not a bunch, but three. But anyway, um,
Hey,
my
can I ask
life
you a
just
question?
changes. Yeah,
Not to cut you off, but what advice do you have? Because I think a lot of applicants go through a lot, whether it's grief, I've seen it all. So I've seen literally a father whose daughter was murdered during bar prep
yeah.
when some in the beginning of my courses, some beginning
You
of
got
Save
two
Bar Style.
choices. You
Yeah,
have
what
to
what
push.
what what do you do? What do you do in those scenarios when you have a goal like the bar exam, right? So here you are,
Yeah.
you're having family members pass away, which grief is extremely heavy, right? I've been there, like I said, and it's so heavy. What do you recommend in that moment? What got you through, do you think? Because you persevered no matter how many
Time,
times you took
time,
it.
time got me through. The
Time.
fact that I was focused
Mhm.
on the bar when I passed, it was July 2021.
Mhm.
The dust had settled.
Good
Everything
for
had
you.
settled down, and I finally did what Shauna told me to do. This gets more interesting. Is Shauna told me,
I'm right
Michael,
here.
you-
I told you,
you're,
you're so sweet.
you're not doing the world. I'm talking to the public here, but
It's
you're
okay.
not. I know you're here. You're here, but I'm not doing the work that I'm supposed to be doing. I'm shortcutting. I'm writing I'm looking at the examples instead of writing my own essays. I'm not writing down my Adaptabar MBEs. I'm not writing down the rules,
The
which really helped me.
methodology, the tracking. And you were a hard worker. I remember your process, and one of the reasons I wanted you to come on is because your story is incredible. And your perseverance is incredible. But really, you did the work. I think you just had a hard time doing it the way that I wanted you to. And I don't think it was an intentional doing it on your own terms. There was a block going on. I think a lot of it was definitely your personal, which a lot of applicants will be able to relate to because the world keeps turning, right? When you're doing bar prep and you're faced with, here's this goal that I've wanted for so long. I went to law school and spent all this money. And now I want this so bad, but I have a lot of personal stuff going on. And how do I weigh that? Right. Because there's never a perfect time to take the test. Right. But there's definitely a better time. And so you definitely had a block, but there were other things, right, that went on too. So let's talk about that.
Well, you were at my wedding. I got married in 2019. That was another big
For
event.
that gorgeous wedding
I went through a
by the
full
water.
home. Yep,
Yep.
I went through a full home remodel during the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
Stressful.
a heck of a lot of stress.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
But that's not what I'm
and
getting at. There was an epiphany that you realized that was
oh
also creating a major block. Now you know what
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
talking about. Yeah.
yes, yes. I'll come out. I'll spill the beans on that.
Okay.
I went, you spotted a disconnect and said, Michael, there's a disconnect going on somewhere. And I thought back to my childhood. I thought back to my adolescence. And I was always an A student in history. I always, when I enjoyed something, I was all on top of it. You couldn't pull me away from it. But then I got the C in math or, stuff like that. I went to go get professional testing first at the Veterans Hospital.
Okay, wait. I don't want
And,
to. I don't. I want to. I really want to know this story because I don't think
well,
I
here,
know. Yeah, but I want to know like what made you. I know that I had said you had a blockage, but and you're
yeah,
looking at your childhood. So was it like an intuition almost? Like you're
yeah,
like
it was
something
something that
feels
was always
off.
swept under. It was something that was always swept under the rug because if you have a job and a
Mm,
structure like the military, it's really good for it. But I am in fact ADD. I'm not. I'm
mm,
not ADHD. You don't see me bouncing around hyper, but
hmm.
I'm ADD, which is a subset of ADHD.
So in all
And
your childhood and even in the military, nobody and throughout law school, this never was on any no professor, no
nope,
higher up there, no one had ever observed and thought that of you, that you
only
potentially
my
had
only my
something with
grade school
ADD.
only my grade school teachers that says Mike is excessively talking and Mike is not trying hard
Don't
enough.
we all?
He's
Yeah,
highly intelligent, but he's not. Back in the 80s and 90s, they're like, you're not putting forth the effort. They didn't know much
mm,
about it back then.
right.
They're like, you're
This
not.
is like
We
I
know you're
think
intelligent, Michael. You're just you're being lazy. That's what they
right.
would get at.
Well, yeah, and I think mental health was not as focused on back then. Like for me,
No.
I have a lot of anxiety and it was just you're really sensitive, you're really sensitive. And now in my 40s, I've realized no, I have generalized anxiety disorder
Mhm.
and I have to work through that. I'm not just sensitive. It's something that is actually like a mental
Yeah.
health issue for me that I work on. And wow, so thank you for sharing that. So when when the doctor psychologist came out, right, and said that, was that comforting for you when you heard that? Was it kind of like, that's why I've been feeling this way?
Yeah. That's why I've had such a hard time, and it just was something that I got to remedy, and then I was able to do accommodations, and then I was able to get time and a half, which slowed me down a little bit, slowed my brain down to where,
Mm,
because the problem wasn't my reading comprehension, it was me flying through everything 100
right.
miles an hour,
I remember that. Hmm.
and
Yeah, and
when
saying
you
like,
have an
"Why are you
extra,
speeding through this? Why are you doing this set so fast?" Right. Okay, so that makes a lot of sense. So, when you were diagnosed with ADD and you were getting treatment for that, was the next bar the one you passed?
I got a lot closer.
Okay.
I
So that
got
was
my
like
results
bar
back.
number 8.
Number 8.
Number 8.
uh, I had passed my MBEs with flying colors. I mean, fortunately, well, unfortunately, well, you would never want to know your score. You don't know your score if you pass. But
Right.
I got back my score, and my MBEs were like in the top 68th or 69th percentile of the country, the
Wow.
state. I
This
was
is on
like,
the 8th attempt.
yeah, and
The 8th
I
attempt
went
of the exam.
from like the 1200s to the 1400s. Like I just went
So
way
you
up.
saw a significant improvement post the actual, ADD diagnosis
Hmm.
and treatment. So that was um
But
very
the
helpful
second
for you
reads,
having that accommodation. You had the accommodation in the 8th attempt, right?
yes.
So then you went
But
into the
my
ninth.
second reads on my
Mm.
essays, my second reads are what killed me because they were all close. And the second
Always
read
go
is
down on
unfortunate.
those second reads for the most part. I feel like
Yeah.
it's still an enigma. Okay, and then I'll have episodes talking about that second read on the bar exam. Um,
I was so pissed off, pardon my language.
it, it's
I wrote a
okay.
letter to CalBar,
We're
which was
raw and uncut
futile.
over here. You were pissed
I
off, rightfully so. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, come on, people. I passed the essays the last two bars. My MBEs were my shortcoming. Now it's my essays are my shortcoming, which was never the come on, just give it to me.
And
And so I
that
go ahead.
reread, I mean, I have seen rereads literally of a performance test be from like an 80 go down to a 45. So the reread to me is sometimes I can see why, but sometimes it's a real enigma. So it's interesting.
They
Okay.
were
And
handing out
then
45s during this bar. I don't know why, but it was a February bar, so go figure. It's
yeah,
less passers. So
right. Well, there's theories on
it
that.
was tough.
But then you take the ninth bar right after. So are you going consecutive back to back? in all these
That
bars. You never took
I
a
never
bar
missed
off.
one bar.
That's pretty impressive. That perseverance is incredible, and really inspirational. There might be applicants or people that are judgmental and say the guy took it 9 times, right? You shouldn't be a lawyer. I couldn't disagree more. I think the perseverance of a repeat applicant is like nothing I've ever seen in my 15 years of doing this. I've worked with everything from, everyone from a 2-time taker to a 25-time taker. And the perseverance shows a lot about character. And I think we need a lot more of that in the industry today. But so obviously you eventually pass the exam, right? Ninth time the charm.
Hey,
Um,
anybody that would say that, I do really well in my practice, and that's the real world. So
exactly. And I want to hear
what
all about
now?
that practice. So just to briefly so you take the ninth time, and did you know coming out on that ninth time, like, did it feel different?
Yeah, I pretty much felt like I mastered the PT.
Mm,
Um, it was July 2021,
mm-hmm.
and it involved a blue collar worker doing white collar work, and switching companies. It was something that we were familiar with, not something about trusts or charitable trusts or whatever that I've seen before
So
on
they
the
tested
PT. So
topics that you felt comfortable with.
yeah, it
Got
was
it.
good, and then the MBEs were pretty. I was pretty solid on them, and I'll never know what I got, but I passed, so I must have did really well all around. So
What did that feel like when you saw your name is on the pass list after all these years and losing your mom and your aunt? I mean, what did that feel like?
this gets better. Uh, my best friend, my best man at my wedding, died of a heart attack at age 44, 5 days before my results.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
I am so
So
sorry.
I think this was
Wow.
divine intervention. I think he was lobbying to God or something, saying, "Man, you got to pass my boy Mike. Come on."
Your best man at your wedding, 5
Yeah,
days before results.
Cam, yeah,
That's a lot, Mike. It's a
yeah,
lot of
yeah,
grief. Yeah.
yeah. It was a surprise. It was really a shock to everybody. Age 44, but it
So
just didn't stop.
sorry.
It was nonstop for me. But the silver lining was that I passed in November 2021, and it took 4 months for the moral character to go through, and
Mhm.
I swore in. I believe it was the 15th of March 2022. So I've
Wow.
been practicing almost 2 years now.
Well, that's quite a story. I have chills and I had to hold back some tears. Uh, Grief is such a heavy topic, but it's a relevant topic, right? It's part of life. And to go through that much during your bar prep and law school journey, um, you said time is what really got you through it, and I'm sure
Time.
support, right? Any other tips on getting through grief during your law journey? Any other things
Um,
that helped you?
Well, some people will do a 3 year program. Some people will do a 4 year program. Some will do ABA, CalBar accredited, unaccredited. It doesn't matter what your journey is. You just
Mhm,
have to prioritize law, which is not fun in every single subject for most people or easy for most people, but
mhm.
you just have to say that this is who I am, this is what I do. And that's what got me through infantry school. You just have to say, this is who I am, this is what I do. And
This
you
is
have to believe
who I
that.
am. This is what I do. I
This is what I
absolutely love that.
do.
So even when you're dealing with something like grief, you keep going, is your
You
point.
keep pushing.
You keep
You keep
pushing.
pushing. Now, granted, when my mother passed away, I should have taken a bar off. When my aunt was the same way, I should have taken another
Well, we
bar
all
off. But
could
that's
say should
hindsight.
have, right? We all can look
Coulda,
back.
woulda, shoulda.
I can really relate to that. When my mom passed away, I we buried her, her funeral, and then literally 2 weeks later, I was teaching day one of the July course, and remember, in retrospect, I should have stopped, but I do think that sometimes we throw ourselves into to do, whether it be work or studying for the exam or whatever else can keep us busy as part of the grief journey. I feel like
Yeah.
sometimes, right? It helps. And even though it might not be the right thing to do in retrospect, like I should have taken time to really absorb that and sit in it and to have sat in it a little bit more. It is, at least in both our journeys, right? We can connect on that for sure, saying we threw ourselves into bar prep. Well, you threw yourself into continued bar prep, and I threw myself into work. And it was something as a distraction, really, just to not want to deal with it because the pain was so heavy. So
Yeah.
that is, we can look back, and of course that is your journey, and if that's how you feel, that's how you feel. But I'll tell you that I think everything's meant to be, right? So
Yep.
you were meant to keep going, and you did, and you got it done. So all right, well, that was pretty heavy, and thank you for sharing that. I am always going to be so unbelievably proud of the perseverance that you put in, and the focus, and really never complaining, never you really had a great attitude, even despite the things and big things that you went through. So, what's life like been since you got married? Right, pretty close to taking that last exam. Your wife is wonderful. I met her at the wedding. I'm wondering how things are going, and talk about the practice of law. So, what's that been like for you?
Well, I have my own personal injury clients, my
So, you're
own
doing personal
private
injury.
practice. It's a good field.
Mhm.
It's learning how to deal with the insurance companies and the adjusters, more so that than actual litigation. So it's a good,
Mhm.
I say it's a good area to start practicing in.
Mhm.
Uh, yeah, mostly personal injury, one product's liability.
So, do you have
But
your
then,
own law firm?
yeah, it's small. It's not, I don't have shareholders and partners or
Why
even
do you need
employees.
that? Sole
Exactly.
practitioners. It's the way to go. My dad was a sole practitioner for 45 years.
Yep.
You run the shots, right?
hmm
So
But then
you're your own boss. Go ahead.
I also do work for Unite the People based out of Long Beach, and they're a nonprofit law firm. I consider Caesar McDowell, the CEO, he's a great friend. I mean,
Mhm.
he's a great person. They need lawyers because there's a lot of people that are serving time, do the
Mhm.
crime, serve the time, but there's the private prison system. That's another discussion for another podcast. I
I would
mean,
love that.
yeah, that's
We need
they're
to talk
getting,
about that.
18 years old, let's say, involved with, they're not even the primary shooter, but let's say they're part of a robbery, they're in the car, somebody dies, they get 35 to life.
On
Uh
what basis? Accomplice?
yeah, well, not
Mm.
even a third strike, but just yeah, based on accomplice. I mean, we had somebody that the organization got her out after 32 years. She was involved in a robbery. I
Wow.
think she served 32 years, and they actually hired her. So, there's a few former incarcerated but I found that I'm able to go into the prisons. I'm able to go into jails. I'm able to get along with the incarcerated. I'm able to be real. That takes a certain skill set, a people person type of, no nonsense type of person, because I mean, these are lives. These are people's lives and liberty at stake, and that's the most severe. That's the most important area of law, I think, is someone's liberty rather than
Mhm.
finances.
That's wonderful. So you're dabbling in, well, it doesn't sound dabbling, but you're working within criminal law as more pro bono, right?
hmm
And then you're also doing personal injury. That is
hmm
incredible. And didn't you recently have some like high profile client? Were you working with
Well, yeah,
someone?
it's public. It's public record. I was second chair on the Tory Lanez case, the rapper. We
What was the outcome of that case?
It's still pending. His appeal is pending, and we filed a writ of habeas at the same time. It's like
Look at
dropping
you,
things in
writ
two
of
different buckets.
habeas. I am so impressed. I mean, and so you are going to continue personal injury? Do you think that's where your career will keep at right now?
The money's good with personal injury, but I mean, criminal,
'Cause
unless
your
you're
face
really,
lit
really,
up when you were talking about the jail system and the issues
yeah,
going
I
on there.
do. I do like to do them both. I think they go well together. I do like. I've done preliminary hearings. I've made excellent records. I haven't done trial yet. I don't have
It's
trial
coming.
experience. It takes a while.
It's coming. It'll come.
Yeah, but
So
I've done pre-trial.
in the years that you've been practicing, what would you say is a challenge in the practice of law? Do you think coming out of just your law school journey, bar prep journey? Obviously, it's very different, the practice
Well,
of law, right? But what would you say? Any challenges you have faced that you would want
just
people to know about?
just fitting into your niche area. Just when you start doing criminal law, let's say, like when you come on as a brand new deputy district attorney, let's say, you're
Mhm,
going to be doing prelims. You're not going
mhm,
to be doing trial work. You're going to be doing prelims. Well,
mhm,
that's what they had me doing,
mhm.
and you have to just get used to the lingo. You have to get used to what's expecting. You have to get used to putting yourself on the record, and good morning, Your Honor, Michael Hayden representing defendant, blah blah blah, and it becomes
Just the
automatic. And
procedures, the actual procedures of going to court. I remember
yeah,
that. Yeah, I
yeah.
remember my first time in federal court, the judge was on this huge pedestal and I freaked out. I almost like peed my pants, literally. I was so freaked out. I was like, I'm leaving. I don't know what I'm doing. I just sat there kind of, I was hoping they didn't call my case too soon because I could watch the other attorneys and then kind of just mimic like where they were going. When my case was called, I went to the wrong side, and there were microphones there. I think I bumped into somebody. It was like kind of a
Well, if
shit
you
show.
tell if you tell the judge, or you tell the DA that this is your first or second or third prelim or something,
Yeah,
they'll work with you. They'll work with you. They're not the lawyers aren't out to get each other. That's what people don't realize. It's not like the
great
television.
point. Great point.
Like
Elaborate on that. That's such a good point. It's one of the first things that my dad taught me is, it's not it is people think it's so adversarial and it does become that, but the more that you can actually work with the attorney or opposing counsel,
good relations.
right? Good
Exactly. I've gotten
relation.
plea
You
deals.
don't
I've gotten good plea deals.
yes.
I put things on the record at prelim that raised some eyes, and then the DA kind of didn't like me, but then after
Mhm.
that we stayed friends, and you know I mean, he objected, and the judge overruled it, so it was kind of, I got a lot more on the record. That's what's good about a prelim, but
Right.
or a
And
preview
yeah,
of
and the
trial.
more you can get along with your opposing counsel, the more that you can get your client's case resolved in their
Hmm.
favor. And it doesn't have to be drawn out as much, right? When it becomes too adversarial. I had to learn that the hard way early on. I'm sure I'll be talking about that throughout more and more episodes. But today was about you. And this was really really great to hear the full story. I mean, it's obviously the Cliff Notes version, right? I mean, there's so much more to it. Um, I want to conclude with just one final question, and thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
I'm always
Big,
here.
me too. And yeah, we'll definitely be friends for life. And I would say if there was one takeaway lesson so far, I know you had mentioned before the perseverance and, to keep going, but just one takeaway lesson for future lawyers, right? Um, and there's so many potential changes coming, right? To law schools and the criteria. What would you tell an up and coming law student who's, maybe in their first year and feeling really lost? And kind of,
Adapt and overcome. Just the age old saying. Back in my infantry days, adapt and overcome. Adapt, overcome, persevere. Like
mhm,
you can complain about the changes. You can complain about how hard it is. It's not going to get easier. Being a lawyer, isn't for everybody. But once you make the commitment, once you're, if your IQ is, let's say, over 100, and you're okay. I mean, you don't
mhm,
have to be a genius. You don't have to, be high on the scale to be a lawyer. You just have to have the discipline, be able to get your, take the rules out of the cases, take and apply those rules,
mhm,
not get tricked on the multi-state questions. Law school's a game. It's a learning process, but it's a game. The bar is a
mhm,
game.
mhm,
And then
100%.
once you're done with that game, you're like, oh man, I got to learn all this now. Like the real world is an entirely different game.
Yeah, that's a
So
whole different game. And I do think
mhm.
like street smarts, right, are really important. Like you said, initially your business background, your military background, that all really comes into play. I mean, it's great to be able to read and be very scholastic in nature and academic. But when you combine that with street smarts, right, and real world experience, the combination can be electric for the practice of law. And that sounds like where the road is headed for you. So good luck on all your future endeavors. I hope to have you back on soon and hear more and more about what you're doing, and definitely maybe that aspect of the prison system here in California. I'd like to talk more about that. And what was the group that you're working for in case listeners want to look it up?
Oh, it's Unite the People Inc. And
Unite the
that's
People Inc.
based out of Long Beach.
Great. Okay. Well, thanks for their work
And
too.
I would always give Caesar McDowell and Unite the People a good shout out, because they're not pro bono, but we're low bono, we say.
Got it. Okay. Not pro bono, but helping
Discounted.
people in
Yeah,
any way you
it's
can.
not as much as a regular firm would charge for mostly post conviction services, but
Got it.
they do pre also.
Got it. Well, in any way you can help, right? So,
Anyway,
congratulations on all your success. I'm really looking forward to seeing what your next chapter holds or chapters, right? Many, many, many chapters. So, thanks so much, Mike, again for coming on. And I will talk to you soon. Have a great, great rest of your day.
you too, Shauna.
All
Thanks.
right. Bye.
Bye.